bounty does not buy peace. It buys a shockwave.
The most powerful cartel leader who has been killed.
The Mexican army says it has killed the leader of the country's most powerful drug cartel.
Most violent and fastest growing drug organization.
He's a person that we would consider as public enemy.
What is the U.S. government reward just increased and placed on the head of Rubén Oseguera Cervantes, alias El Mencho?
When the tactical bullet finally pierced the shadows of Topolpa, the government believed they had killed a man. They were wrong. They had just detonated a geopolitical powder keg. The target was Nemesio Rubén Oseguera Cervantes, El Mencho. But look closely at the asphalt melting on the highways of Guadalajara. This is not the chaotic panic of a fleeing gang. This is surgical, calculated retribution. Within hours of his death, the cartel didn't retreat into the shadows. They stepped into the light and paralyzed an entire state. The anomaly was terrifying to witness. The state of Jalisco was forced to declare a code red. Schools shuttered. Public transport evaporated. The international airport, a vital economic artery, was choked by fear. A multi-billion-dollar tourist and commercial hub, preparing to host the 2026 World Cup, was brought to a dead stop by a phantom army. The media labeled this a cartel war, but the experts looking at the telemetry data knew the chilling truth. This was not a gang defending its turf. This is what intelligence agencies classify as a criminal insurgency. A highly disciplined paramilitary force utilizing asymmetric warfare to hold a government hostage. They were testing the structural integrity of the state itself. The $15 million phantom has been erased. The architect is dead. Yet, the inferno burns hotter, and the machinery of violence operates with terrifying synchronization. If cutting off the head of the cartel was supposed to dismantle the empire, why does the system suddenly seem infinitely more dangerous without him? Because the machine wasn't built by a street thug. It was engineered by a cop. To dissect the resilience of the Jalisco cartel, you must analyze its source code. Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes wore a badge before he wore a $15 million bounty. He understood the exact structural vulnerabilities of state law enforcement. Because he was trained to exploit them, El Mencho didn't establish a criminal syndicate. He drafted a paramilitary doctrine. The raw data proves it. Look at the arsenal. We are not seeing handguns in waistbands. We are witnessing the deployment of modified drone explosives, tactical body armor, and heavily armed infantry convoys. This is asymmetric warfare. He cartel bypasses traditional corruption and opts for overwhelming kinetic force. They operate like a shadow military, imposing a monopoly on violence that mathematically neutralizes local police forces within minutes. The fire on the highway is a distraction. The real battleground is the GDP. Examine the geographical coordinates of the retaliation. Topolpa is the high-altitude fortress, a perfect blind spot for a command center. But the violence erupted primarily in Guadalajara and Puerto Vallarta. Why? Because you don't target a state's military to win, you target its wallet. Guadalajara is not just a city, it is Mexico's Silicon Valley. It is a booming commercial hub preparing to host the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Puerto Vallarta is a multi-billion-dollar tourism engine funneling foreign currency directly into the national treasury. Burning infrastructure here is a meticulously calculated economic embargo. The cartel is weaponizing the state's own financial lifelines. The message to the federal government is brutally clinical. If you hunt our executives in the mountains, we will pull the plug on your international investments. They are holding the future of a nation hostage. The anatomy of the shadow state is fully revealed. It survives because it does not rely on one man's heartbeat. We mistakenly believe that capturing the king ends the chess match. But what happens when the underlying algorithm of this ecosystem is designed to spawn a dozen new, infinitely bloodthirsty kings, the exact moment the old one falls? The $15 million check is cleared. The politicians smile for the cameras, claiming a definitive strike against the cartel. This is the fatal arrogance of the Kingpin Strategy. Intelligence agencies operate on the antiquated belief that decapitating an organization kills the body. But a clinical autopsy of historical data reveals a terrifying twist. Removing an apex predator does not pacify the ecosystem. It merely shatters the cage. El Mencho was a tyrant, yes, but strategically, he was a stabilizer. He maintained a brutal, mathematical order. His death triggers an immediate power vacuum. The lieutenants no longer have a master to fear. They only have rivals to slaughter. The cartel undergoes violent nuclear fission. One disciplined, predictable paramilitary force mutates into a dozen erratic, hyper-violent splinter cells. The state didn't stop the bloodshed. They just decentralized it, multiplying civilian collateral damage exponentially. But the true horror lies beyond the turf wars. Step back from the mountains of Jalisco and look at the globe. You must stop viewing the CJNG as a street gang and start analyzing it as a multinational logistics corporation. The product is fentanyl. The consumer demand is infinite. This introduces the most chilling reality of modern geopolitics: transnational supply chain resilience. The CEO is dead, but the board of directors remains faceless. Within hours of the Topolpa raid, while the asphalt was still burning in Guadalajara, the algorithms of the shadow economy automatically adjusted. Precursor chemicals from Asia were rerouted. Clandestine labs shifted their production quotas. The delivery trucks kept rolling. Not a single gram of fentanyl failed to cross the border because of El Mencho's death. The machine is immortal because it feels no grief. But this forces us to confront a terrifying paradox. If killing the ultimate boss doesn't destroy the system, but merely acts as a brutal software update, then what exactly is the government fighting for? The war on drugs is a comforting illusion. It is a bedtime story fed to the public to mask the terrifying impotence of the state. We are conditioned to cheer when a kingpin falls, to view a $15 million bounty as the ultimate victory condition. But when the smoke finally clears over the charred highways of Jalisco, the cold arithmetic of the shadow state remains flawlessly intact. Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes did not build a traditional syndicate. He engineered a self-healing apex predator. He was not the irreplaceable mastermind the media portrayed. He was merely the most successful iteration of a virus. By eliminating him, the authorities did not cure the disease. They simply force the pathogen to mutate into something faster, younger, and infinitely more violent. This is the chilling insignificance of the individual in the face of transnational machinery. Human lives are nothing more than acceptable friction in a global supply chain that must never sleep. The product will flow. The money will wash. The algorithm demands it. To survive in this era, you must stop looking at the faces on the wanted posters and start analyzing the invisible gears grinding beneath them. We decode these geopolitical anomalies, opening a new classified dossier 3 times a week. Subscribe, step into the briefing room, and never let the surface narrative blind you again. Tomorrow, the sun will rise. The border will quietly process another billion-dollar transaction. The architect is in the ground, but the slaughterhouse is running on autopilot.